Now, this is what I am talking about. Woohoo! What a great, I mean, excellent return to form for The Mandalorian this week. Welcome to the channel, everybody, and welcome to another review. And it is this week's Mandalorian, the Heiress. And when you look at that name and you're like, okay, what to expect? What's gonna happen? And you think like, okay, maybe that frog lady, some kind of a thing will pop up about her or something, and then boom, we get into this big surprise. So let's start from the top, and remember, spoilers, okay? Spoilers each week, spoilers. So basically, the episode starts from where we left off last week. The ship is not looking so good. It's on its last legs, and they kind of have a crash landing, and it's actually a pretty hilarious crash landing, and the humor is done right, not overdone in that sequence. So there you go. We arrive at the location, and then we actually have a really sweet moment. The Todd lady, I call her the Todd lady, she finally meets up with her guy, and they have this moment where, the eggs, and he finally looks at the eggs, and it's a really sweet moment between the Mando and the couple there. And then it's back to the mission. You gotta find other of his kind. So there's an inn. That guy, as the lady promised, he points out to a person that he would know where his Mando's kinds are. So he gets on a ship, and they're on their way to the location. And on this way, I guess, these guys were not really taking him anywhere. They tried to trap him and try to really kill him, I guess, in a way. There's this creature. He grabs Baby Yoda first, and then Mando is stuck. And here we go. 3 other Mandalorians show up. And boy, these fight sequences are really good in this episode. I love the cuts. I mean, there were not too many cuts. It was not like one shot, but it was good enough. It was Star Wars. It really felt like Star Wars. Like this episode, it was as much of a Mandalorian episode and as much of a Star Wars episode. I feel like, anyone who really, really loves Star Wars, because Mandalorian obviously is Star Wars, but it's a very different kind of a Star Wars. The pure Star Wars, the people who love those will really like this episode. There's so much going on here. So 3 Mandos show up, and, they save him, and then they take off their masks. Just like that. And he's like, what? What? And then all of a sudden, there's dialogue, and then we learn that the Mandalorian, that he's always known as, the Mandalorians to be, are not the only one. They're like different sects. And these do not actually keep their mask on all the time. They can take it off. It's totally fine. And it's like this, it startles him. And all of a sudden you learn of this plot point, and it's like, whoa, whole thing of possibilities now open up. And then we also learn later on in the episode that this particular Mandalorian, one of them, is actually kind of like the Heiress, and she is after the dark saber. And it's like, whoa. And all this, like, you start thinking of the possibilities and the connections between the Mandos and, the Empire, and you just start thinking of what the possibilities can be once this season keeps going and we start learning more things. Can't wait. Anyways, they have a mission for Mando. They're like, okay, if you help us, again, it's always like something's up with, like, every time he meets a person, they need his help before they give him any answers or anything like that. So the idea is that this particular sect, they want a seat in, I guess, like the Galactic Empire. They want a seat with a Mandalorian on it, and this Heiress wants to, start somewhere, and they want Mando's help to steal this ship with an Empire ship with weapons on it. And then, as I said, that's also where she confirms about Darth Saber, and it's like all of a sudden, like when she asked about the dark saber, it's like, what? Whoa, the Mandos know about it? Like it's such a big surprise that there's a sect that actually knows about it, and it's a bit more hardcore than the regular Mandalorians that we've seen so far. And on this ship is pure Star Warsy. This is a new word, Star Warsy. There is this action sequence with the stormtroopers, and there's this like hilarious moment with the stormtroopers, as we've always joked about, like them not understanding what the hell's going on and getting shot, like their shootings all over the place, and like that's whole thing is in this one small moment, and it's sad. It's like they're gonna die, but it's also very much hilarious. And all of a sudden, like I was so happy that we see the Empire in its like true form. In this episode, there's also another sequence where when when they've decided that the ship is taken, there's no way they can get out of here. The order is given to, you know what to do, and like the leader of the ship is basically like shoots the pilots. They're like, we're gonna drown this ship with everybody in it. I was like, whoa, that's the Empire. That's the dark side. It's like, if we can't fight him, kill ourselves. That's it. We're not gonna let anybody live. That was a really good sequence. They're like, yep, that's the Empire. And this whole sequence, as I said, like with the fight and with these three Mandos, like their introduction, with like how they fight, it even feels more raw. It feels more personal. They really go for it. They really, really go for it. Really on the edge kind of thing. They have also these like Assassin's Creed kind of like blades on their ends. It's like, I loved it. I loved their armor also. Like it's very different. More symbolism on it. The true, like the really hardcore Star Wars fans probably will recognize some of the symbols on it. I couldn't. I was trying to notice it, but I couldn't. But anyways, as I said, you would. So overall, I loved this episode. This is what I was talking about in the last episode. I think this was that big episode. It was like right on track. We're like, we're gonna be go, 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 go. Information. We're gonna give it to you, and we're also gonna set up, future episodes. But it was very different. It was like through dialogue, we were like, oh, that's coming. Oh, that's coming. Oh, she said that. He said that. So that's probably not gonna happen. It was not like a cliffhanger, and then you're like, oh, okay, what? But it was like through dialogue and through the story itself, it just gave you information, but then also gave you questions. And I loved that kind of a thing where instead, like, the whole episode, nothing happens, and then there's like a cliffhanger, or even if something happens at the end, there's a cliffhanger, and then you're like, oh, okay, so that's what I'm expecting. So I loved this kind of a structure where through the story, through the episode, you're learning things. I still feel like that this episode and the second episode like could have been one thing, especially with this one, like without the credits and everything. It's only about like around the 30-minute mark, less than 30 minutes. So I feel like if you take those like 27 or 28 minutes and attach it to the second episode, the previous episode, the way it ended just like that, if you've seen my previous review, you would know that I did not like that episode very much. So I think together though, it's a much better episode as a whole if you attach this episode and the previous episode together. So that's something I noticed. I think they should have done that. But yeah, other than that, also that frog lady and her babies things. I don't know if this is going to be something major. At this point, honestly, it's not looking like it the way it ended. It was just like, okay, she's at her place, and that's that. There is a point where he leaves Baby Yoda with the couple just because he has to go with the other Mandalorians to on a mission. As I said, they go raid the ship, the Empire ship. But other than that, the ending, there is a small moment at the end with like a creature, but you think something's about to happen, but it's again, it's used for humor. But yeah, so at this moment, I don't really think anything is going to happen with the frog and their couple and their red babies, but I've seen theories that they have a bigger meaning, but I don't know. It just does not feel like it at the moment. So maybe that is probably a nitpick that with how that passenger was such a big deal for episode 2, maybe they could have added a bit more to her story and made the episode a bit longer so that we can just kind of learn her side if it's important enough or not. But I guess you can also see it in a way that maybe they're saving it for later. But because, as I said, episode 2 was so important for that character, maybe adding a bit more to her side of the story would have been better. So that's my only nitpick. Other than that, from the Empire stuff, from the other Mandalorian stuff, from the fight sequences, it was all great. It was all great. The Mandalorian in this one, he was not that badass. I think he was more run down. He was just frustrated from everything that has happened so far. And then he was also startled with the discovery he just made. So in that sense, his character is still intact, but I think he's going through a phase. It just feels like they're starting him on a different journey where something is affecting his mind. It definitely felt like in this episode, he's very startled. So let's see what they do with that mindset, with like all the new information that he has learned in this episode. So let's see where they go with that. So okay, so overall, an amazing episode. Just a few nitpick that I have, but other than that, a great episode. I give this one a 9 out of 10. Yeah, great episode, great return to form for the show after the previous episode. Definitely watch this one. It is amazing. So yeah, with that, I'll end the review, and I also want to ask, how did you feel like about this episode? Please leave a comment below and let me know. And take care, and I will catch you all later. Until then, ta-da.